Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive in. Today we're tackling something that I'm sure is on a lot of minds out there. I mean, finding good care for aging family members,
Yeah,
it's a big one, right?
absolutely. Definitely a big one. There's just so much to think about. It's a huge decision for families.
It really is.
Yeah.
And from the research we've been looking at, there are a lot of different paths you can go down, but one that caught my eye was this platform, My Skill for Money. What's interesting to me is it's not just like a scheduling service. They seem to really focus on finding caregivers who actually connect with the people they're taking care of.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it, I think. More and more people are realizing that caregiving isn't just about, the physical stuff. It's about companionship, emotional support, all of that,
Yeah.
especially as people get older.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually reading about this one caregiver who would spend hours just like reminiscing with her client, bringing back old memories and stuff. And the
Yeah.
family said it was like it really brought their loved one back to life.
Wow. That's incredible. And, that's a perfect example of how the right caregiver can truly change everything. But of course, the question is, how do you actually find that right person? That's got to be one of the biggest challenges, even before you get into all the specifics of what kind of care is needed.
Right, exactly. And figuring out those specifics can be a whole other thing too. Because some people might just need help with everyday tasks, while others might need like more serious medical care. And then of course there's the whole safety issue, which I bet is a major concern for anybody in this situation. Letting a stranger into your loved one's home, that's a big leap of faith.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's where these platforms like My Skill for Money are trying to, I guess, address those worries that you get with the more traditional ways of finding caregivers. They talk about their rigorous vetting process, but what does that even mean? Like, do they just do a basic background check, or do they actually like verify licenses and check references and all that?
It's a good question because saying you vet people and actually doing it thoroughly are two different things. The more transparency there is, the more comfortable families are going to feel, right?
Exactly. And, even with the best vetting process in the world, no system is perfect. So it's always a good idea to look at different approaches. I mean, some families go with in-home care agencies, which often have their own screening and oversight. But of course, that usually comes with a higher price tag. So these platforms like My School for Money, they might be a more direct and affordable option, but then families might need to be more involved in the whole vetting and selection process themselves.
So it's a balancing act, weighing cost, convenience, and how much oversight you need. Each family's got to figure out what works best for them. But okay, let's say someone decides to check out My Skill for Money. What's it like actually using it?
Well, from what I've seen, the first thing you do is create a profile for your loved one, outlining their needs and what they like. And it's kind of neat they let you specify personality traits too, like whether you'd prefer a caregiver who's talkative or someone more quiet. They get that it's not just about skills, it's about finding a personality match too.
That's really interesting. How much weight do you think those personality preferences should carry, though? Is it a make or break thing or more like a bonus if you can find it?
Hmm, that's a good question. I mean, a personality match is great, but realistically, it's probably just one factor among many. Practical skills and experience, those have got to be the priority. But if you can find someone who clicks personality-wise on top of that, well, that can make a real difference in the quality of care.
Definitely. Okay, so you set up the profile. What's next? Finding the actual caregivers, right? They have a whole bunch of filters from what I saw. So you can really narrow down your search based on qualifications, experience, even what languages they speak.
Yeah, and they really push those reviews from other families, which don't get me wrong, reviews can be useful, but you have to remember that everybody's situation is different. What works for one family might not work for another. So, reviews are a good starting point, but they're not a substitute for actually talking to the caregiver and getting a feel for them yourself.
You're right, yeah. So let's say you've looked at the reviews, you've narrowed down the list. What then?
Then comes the most important part, the interview. That's where you really dig deep, ask about their experience, their philosophy on caregiving, see if they mesh with what you're looking for.
Any tips on how to make the most of that interview?
Oh, absolutely. Don't be afraid to get into the nitty-gritty. Ask them, like, what's their approach to elder care? How do they handle difficult situations? Have they dealt with specific needs similar to your loved ones? And if you can, see how they interact with your family member in person. Body language can tell you a lot.
So it's about gathering info, but also trusting your instincts, right?
Exactly. Finding the right caregiver, it's a mix of logic and intuition. You're looking for someone who's capable, compassionate, and who just feels like a good fit.
Makes sense. So we've talked about the emotional side of things, the safety concerns, the actual steps of using a platform like My Skill for Money. It's clear that this whole landscape is constantly changing with new options popping up all the time. As we wrap up, here's something to think about. With more and more people getting older, how is technology going to change the way we care for our loved ones? Could we see even more personalized, innovative solutions in the future?
That is a fascinating question, and it's one we're all going to have to keep exploring as we navigate the future of caregiving. How do we make sure our loved ones get the support and connection they deserve? It's something to keep thinking about.
Definitely. And if anyone's interested in checking out My Skill for Money, you can find them online at www.myskillformoney.com. It's one option among many, and like we've been saying, it's always good to do your research and see what's out there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. See you next time.